this is Lori Harris with Micro Accounting. I want to thank all of you for joining us today for our document management, the life of a paperless office webinar. We have Randall Glenn on the line. Randall actually leads up our document management and process automation division at Micro Accounting, which is a strategic area for us. We found that many clients want to take their offices paperless, and that can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people, depending on your company needs and where you have the most paper. So we are starting off today with a kind of an overview of DocLink, which is one of the solutions we represent for document management and the life of a paperless office. This is actually the first in a series. So everyone on this webinar is going to be receiving some future emails from us. We've got, starting in February, about every 3 weeks, there's a webinar on Thursdays at 1 o'clock that pertain to document management and process automation. So we're pretty excited about all of the pieces and the opportunities that are available to our clients, and we're able to bring those to you and meet those needs. We do have the webinar muted today. We are trying to record it for those that aren't able to attend. So we do want to accept questions though. So please enter them in the question panel of GoToWebinar, and then we will go through and make sure those questions are answered. Randall's going to have a brief PowerPoint, and then he's going to go into live software demo, and then we'll wrap everything up with a Q&A at the end. So one other piece, we also do have Warren with Intacct is on the line. Intacct is actually the company who writes DocLink, which is also known as Sage Document Management. I believe most of you on the line today are existing Sage clients of ours. So for you, what that means is this is the endorsed solution for Sage, and that it's fully integrated with Sage. The big benefit to that is Sage is backing the product as well as Intacct as well as Micro Accounting. But the great thing is means that there's integrations with Sage, but you can also use it in other areas of your business that may not use Sage at all, but you can, the cost factor is a little easier that way to roll it out into other areas of your business. So with that, I'm going to turn everything over to Randall and kind of let him take it away. And like I said, please enter any questions you have into the webinar panel, and we'll make sure that those get answered as Randall's going along or at the end once he wraps up. So Randall, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Lori, and thank you everyone for your attendance today. Like Lori said, today is just the first in a series. It's basically a broad overview of what the application does. It really is a document management software that encompasses a lot of different features. You can access documents anywhere, automate any process, and that's really the key feature of the application is being able to access your documents anywhere. So what is DocLink? It's a capture tool. It's going to allow you to scan documents, automate collection of documents, place them into a repository for later search and retrieval. It also has workflow capabilities that allow these documents that need other individuals' interaction with them to approve them through a workflow mechanism. It also has automated delivery of documents, and as these documents are automatically distributed, it keeps an audit trail of them. There's one other key feature to DocLink, and it's really an awesome tool. It's called SmartForms. SmartForms are a way that you can create templates that can accept user data. When the forms are filled in, it will create a document, and that document can be stored for later search and retrieval, or again, placed through a workflow for approval or automatically delivered out. So DocLink is an enterprise-wide solution. It's not just dedicated to accounts payable. It works with every department in your organization. So I tell people all the time, if you purchase the product, don't pigeonhole it to your department. It is an enterprise-wide solution. It'll work in every single department in your organization that has documents, or if you have certifications that have to be renewed on an annual basis, these documents can be stored and then notify users to take interaction with updating those certificates. Contract management. It stores all sorts of different types of contracts, maybe in Word, Excel. There's no limit to the number of different document types that you can store within the application. As you see here, you can work with field management, field services, the IT department. It's just not limited to one certain area in the organization. And it's a broad spectrum application. So it can interact and basically do any process that you have today manual. It'll streamline it and make it more efficient through the application. Along the way, it has very tight security. It starts at the company layer. The next layer of security is by department, and then by document type, and then by values that are associated to each one of the individual documents. So with this 4-layer security model, you can tighten your organization down to where only certain users can see certain document types that you want them to be able to interact with. You can also go to the point of saying certain users can only view a certain document type. They can't change any value. And that's the tight security model that's great about this application. It's also compliant with HIPAA and SOX. Generally, those auditors, they will log into this application. You can grant them access to so that you don't have to have a document management clerk pulling files from a file system. Those auditors, again, you can restrict them to only retrieving certain document types and viewing them. They can't make any alterations to those documents, but they can see the full audit trail of these documents from the time that they were put into the system to the time somebody looked at it, changed the value, outputted it through email or some other distribution method. So very tight security. This application is integrated with a number of Sage products, as you see here, 100, 100C, Intacct, Sage 500, 300. And like Lori said, it's the only Sage-endorsed product. There's no other application out there that's endorsed to work with Sage. And that's really a key thing to remember, is that these other software developers that have applications, it hasn't been vetted and approved by Sage. This one is. And the reason for it is, again, the things I've talked about, the security, the workflow mechanisms, the data storage and retrieval aspects of the application. So with that said, this document management software can capture and store documents from a number of different sources. There's a mobile application. You can take a picture of a document and upload it into the application for later search and retrieval. The mobile application, as you see here, a representation of a smartphone, allows you to search for documents, capture pictures of new documents, and it also allows you to approve and send documents through a workload mechanism all off of your smartphone. So now, if you're a remote user, you truly are remote. You don't even have to VPN to the office. Just pick up your smartphone and search for documents. And that's a great thing, especially when you're talking about expense reporting. While you just finished dinner with a customer or a client, you could take a picture of the receipt and have it automatically uploaded into the document management system for later search and retrieval. You don't have to carry around the paper documents anymore. So what we're going to look at is a common scenario. What you see here, there's site photos, receipts, non-disclosure agreements. As you take pictures of these documents, we can set up these profiles that per user, we can allow them to take these types of pictures. When they choose a document type, maybe it's an expense receipt. After they chose the document type, it'll pop up this screen and ask them to add a page. You can take pictures of numerous pages all at once. So in this case here, you can either choose to use the camera, your gallery on your phone, or capture a document. Here, if we took a picture of an expense receipt, here it looks like it's for some dinner, about $24.64 with tax. You just take a picture of it. Once you've taken a picture of it, you can zoom in, you can rotate it, turn it left and right. When you're done taking pictures of your receipts, there's a next button at the very top right, or you can add another page just by clicking on Add Page 2. Let's assume that we are done taking pictures of our receipts. You would hit the next button, and it pops up a indexing screen. The things that have an asterisk to the right of the title, like the employee, the expense description, those are things that are required before we accept it into the document management system. You get that control to set up which fields are required. There's other values like the company name and the dates. Those values we can auto-assign based just off of when somebody took a picture of an image. So once the document is indexed, it'll ask us if we want to upload it into the document storage area. At this point, we can say no. We could go back and add more pages. If we said yes, we're ready to upload it. It's uploaded into the document management system, and then it can be accessed again from a smartphone that you see in the bottom right, or from a tablet, or from a web browser that you see on the large screen. So there's a lot of different ways to search and recall these documents. You're not tied to just logging into your desktop. You can hit these documents from anywhere on the web that you have access to an internet browser. So when you're searching for these documents, and maybe you're out on the road and some of these documents need to be approved by you, we can notify you in a couple of different ways. If you are one of those remote individuals, we might notify you through email, and that's what you see underlying the picture of the phone is an email message. If we were allowing you to approve documents through email, you would actually have an attachment in your email. You can have some values that are associated in the email body, and down below there's an approve and deny button. So just after reviewing the attachment in your email, we don't force you to log into another system to approve these documents, but you can make that decision to yes, approve it, or no, don't. Based off of your decision that you choose through email by approving or denying, that document can be automatically routed to the next approver or through a different route through the workflow. So in either case, through the email or through the mobile application, you have that same capability. You can approve a document by one click of a button or deny. There's a blue info button in the mobile app. If you click on that, you can actually tie a note when you're approving or sending a document to the next workflow user. The reason that we talk about these things, being able to approve documents remotely or through email, is because if you're working with a tangible document on your desk, it's very time consuming because a couple of things happen. You can lose that document. It can get misshuffled. But when you turn to a document management system like DocLink, you can actually get an ROI very quickly off the software based on the number of hours that you spend approving of documents and later searching and recalling them. So you can see here in these examples, an average savings, just a number of different individuals in a company, the cost to access and share documents. Generally, you're going to save about $30,000 a year if you had up to about 15 employees. The cost to manually route documents through a workflow, an annual savings is roughly $38,000. So the software is not that expensive, but of course you're seeing an immediate ROI on the application itself. Okay? So these are the highlights of the application, and then we're going to get into a live demonstration of the product. Are there any questions currently that I can answer about what I've talked about?
We haven't had any questions come in yet. I think they're probably waiting to see the live product demo and then going from there.
Perfect. So just FYI, when you're ready to look at the document management system, maybe in a more streamlined demo for your organization, give us a call. We're happy to do that.
Yeah, and for those of you that did join late, I know we've had a handful of you that had signed on after we did the intro. We do have the lines muted, but please enter your questions in the question panel, and we'll make sure that those get answered.
All right. So the document management system has a lot of capabilities, and I love some of the automated things that it does. You can certainly scan documents and then index them into the system. The system's got a number of different ways to automatically onboard these documents. I think one of the key ones that I like to talk about is if you have a centralized email address where people are sending documents to, we can collect them automatically from email and then put them into the document management system. So as an example of that, let's say that I'm a supplier and I'm sending you a document. And here we're just doing a live demonstration here. In our subject line, we're going to say paperless office. Okay, so that's my subject line. I can attach documents to this email, of course, right? So I might just take this document here, pop it in here, and then send it to this invoices email address. Now what happens is the application itself is going to monitor email addresses that are configured. When it finds a document, it will automatically take it and put a copy of it into the document management system. When an email has been marked as read, in this case you saw paperless office subject line was set as read, that indicates that the document management system collected it and it put it into the system. I'm going to transition over and I'm going to show you what that interface looks like. This is a client desktop application. So from here, a second here, this is the client interface, and you see it's got a lot of different tabs across the top. Initially, I'm going to start with this one on the far left. It's called Advanced Inquiry. So I can go search for these documents, and I might search for just the ones that were entered today by the click of a button and hit search. So this is an invoice that was collected just from email. If I open it up, this is the attachment that the supplier had sent, and you get to see that it was an invoice. I might go full screen so you see it in a little better context. At the very bottom right, there's a number of different tabs. There's a general tab, and this is kind of important because I can see who the supplier was that sent it. The document's indexed and stored with this information, when they sent it and what the subject line was. Based off of just these values from email alone, we could have automatically routed it to a certain individual in your organization to have them interact and approve this document. So that's kind of a great thing about this tool is there's a lot of different ways to get these documents in. That was automated email collection. You might have set up a folder that you scan documents to. Excuse me. And here we might call it scan folder. You could just drag and drop documents into that folder. This is another method that's automatically taking documents that were placed in that folder, collecting them, and then putting them into the document management system. So when you drag and drop documents in the folders, here I'm going to just do a quick search again. Now I see that there's 2 documents that were put in the system today. And I show the entry date and time here. So that's another example. There's also a third type. It's called drag and drop indexing, to where you can just take a document. You don't have to put it in any specific folder. You can just drag it on top of the icon, the Smart Client icon. When you do that, it's going to pop up a box, ask you to log in. And then from here again, it's going to allow you to see the document that was dragged on top of the icon. And then over here on the right-hand side, you make a quick decision to put it into a workflow, or you might just want to store it as a historical document. In this case, I am going to put this into a workflow called Accounts Payable. These are all the different workflows that are set up in this system. And then I can put it in as a certain document type and a certain category. Here, invoice number is required. There is some basic OCR capture built into the application. It's called capture area. So here where invoice number is red, that indicates a required value. I can click on capture area and I can lasso that value. When the 4-way goes away, I can merely paste it in. Oops, sorry. Invoice number. And then I can hit save. That document now went into a workflow. So those are just a couple of additional ways to capture these documents and then put them into the system. Some of the other things that we're going to talk about later on, we'll actually show in another broadcast or webinar how to actually process these documents into Sage. But just know that these documents right now go into workflows. Users can only access workflows that they've been granted access to. Here, I might look in this accounts payable workflow. Now, this accounts payable workflow, this is the document that we just onboarded. There are forms that you can tie to these documents that are in workflow. On the ERP side, the Sage side, there's one here. It's called the GL Smart Form. This form allows users to code outside of Sage. They can choose GL account codes that only that user has rights to pick from. And that's great from a KPI standpoint because managers can't cross-charge documents to other departments. So we can control that through these smart forms. Okay. So that's one of the key features about the application here is that you can put documents automatically into workflows, or you can manually index. When documents need to be routed to additional users, there's a couple of different ways that they could do it. They could either do it from this grid here. They could mass select documents by the control button or the shift key and send them all at once to some other approver, or they can individually choose these documents and send them to other approvers out of a drop-down list. I might send this to a CFO. You know, we talked about early in my PowerPoint that users can approve documents through mobile, through the web client, or through the client application here. I just sent 2 documents to the CFO to get them to approve. Now that CFO, we like to alert these users when there's a document that needs their attention. So what you just saw is a pop-up email message. In the email body itself, they do get to review the documents. Here it is. If it had been coded, there would have been a subsequent page to the document. But if after reviewing the document, they say, yes, go ahead and make it available for the next approver or approve it for payment, they have that decision down here at the bottom. By the click of a button through email, they can approve or deny that document. When the system moves it automatically to the next status, it'll tell them where it went and to what status. And the reason for that is not everyone remembers if they've approved or denied a document. If they click on it again, it'll actually pop up and tell them, sorry, you've already moved it. Right? So that's email alerting. I approved one document using email. I could have done the next one through my mobile app. There's also capabilities through a web client. And so the web client itself, get logged in here. So I'm going in the CFO's workflow through a web interface. Here on the very top, there's a couple of different options. There's advanced search, workflow. We're going to start off with the CFO's workflow, and we're going to search and open. It'll display the first document in that user's queue. So from the web browser now, they can make a determination. They can look at the documents. They can look at index values. They can apply notes. Okay. And then by the click of a button, they can approve or they can deny. Once they're done reviewing the document, they can send it off to the next user in the workflow chain. I might send it back to AP approved. Okay. So that's the web interface, and you can see very quickly we can approve documents. We can also search and recall those. Some of these documents, we can set up rules based off of values to direct the routing through your organization. Maybe it's an invoice over a certain dollar amount. A rule can be applied to automatically route it to the next approver based off of dollar amount, vendor ID, things like that. These rules are not restrictive to AP documents, but can also be applied to certifications. Maybe a certain certification has to be approved by different individuals in your organization. So all these rules can be applied to any type of document and any value. So one of the other things that we like to talk about is the automatic delivery of documents. So real quick, I'm going to just pop into Sage. What you're going to see here is the ability to automatically capture documents from some data source. Maybe it's from Sage, maybe it's some other application. We like to set up an automatic capture method, and then once we can capture these documents, we can automatically deliver them. So case in point, I'm going to quickly go into a purchase order here. And I might make a very fast purchase order. Selecting some supplier. And I'm going to order a couple of widgets here. Doesn't matter what it is, just to give you an idea. And I'm going to quick print it, save my changes. I'm going to print it to a virtualized printer. It's called Capture. It doesn't have to actually do a physical output, though if you needed it to, it can. So as I click on print here, a copy of that document was just automatically sent to the supplier. If you want to see the document that has been processed, looks like this might be the one that I just processed, 123 of those, you'll see that we have an integration. You can click on the View Documents, and the documents that are tied to these screens, when you click on the View Docs, it'll actually open it up and display it in the window. I'm just waiting for it to route out. Once it automatically routes, the supplier, there we go, can receive that document via email that was automatically sent out. In the file name, we can have, the order number, which you see here. We can also apply templates so that when we're automatically distributing documents, you might have some other terms and conditions that have to go with it, or you might want the body a certain way. We can control all of that. Again, here, if we click on the attachment, this is what the supplier gets, a mirror image of what was created in the system. So that's the delivery part, and that's just one aspect. There's a number of different ways that we can deliver documents. It's through email, FTP, prints, fax, file drops. Here, I might go back in here and see if I can pull this up here. Oh, odd. All right, so that's automatic delivery of documents. Along the way is what you're seeing is what we're alerting people to the fact that documents are sent. We also like to notify individuals when a document is in their queue, because we don't want people to have to log into an application and constantly have to monitor their workload, waiting for somebody to send them work. That's not a good use of time. So what we can do is set up automatic alerts that say, hey, you got a document in your queue. This is an instant alert that you just saw here. There's other types of alerts that we can set up. Are these types of alerts. In this case, it's a support ticket. And this basically shows that somebody filled in a form and we notified the individual that, hey, they submitted a help desk ticket. Okay. So these are all different types of alerts that we can set up. Nothing is set in stone. If you can imagine it, we'll set up the alert that way. Okay. Different types of alerts. There's also reminder alerts that can go out on a daily basis. If you forget to interact with the document, we'll inform you again the next day so that things don't go unattended. There's also automation rules that say, hey, if after so many days you didn't action a document, we can automatically move it on your behalf. So back to the client interface, and I think this is important. There's a SmartForm toolkit. We talked about it earlier, just a way to create forms that can accept user data. These tabs represent departments. These are just some of the forms that I've created. In this case, you might have an expense report form. Down below here, when we start adding lines, there's a blue plus symbol. This allows users to attach receipts to line items. If I had taken a picture of a receipt through my mobile app, I could just pick it out of the attachments button. Or if I have one on my desktop, I can grab it. Okay. So I can put in a transaction date. We'll put in today, and it was like $46.24. And a transaction description, it was food. So these forms can be used to auto-generate documents and automatically onboard their attachments and linking the attachments to the master document that we're creating here. If I click on Create Quickly, I'm going to go over here to the Advanced Inquiry screen and look for an expense report that I had just entered today. And here it is. So I can certainly double click on this, and this is the document that I created. It has my line item information, my header information. If I wanted to see the supporting documents that go with this expense report form, you'll see here as I hover over values, there's hyperlinks. When you click on the hyperlink, the system will perform a sub-inquiry into the system and allow me to see every other document that has that same value. So if I click on here, the expense report number, I can see now, well, there's my receipt, and here's my expense report. Maybe I want to see these documents open simultaneously. I have that option. I can click on Open, And I can see my expense report that was auto-generated and a copy of my receipt on the right-hand side. You can do this type of logic with any type of form, right? And you can attach any type of document. Maybe it's a Word document. Case in point, I might look at the HR department. Here I have a form that I've already created earlier, and it's just basically an onboarding form for a new employee. You'll see that the layout is always, this is the standard layout, but don't, you're not really tied to this type of layout. We can make this pretty. We can put on different fonts, your company logo, lay out the form data however you like. But in this case here where we're looking at an onboarding a new employee, down at the very bottom, there's a number of different tabs. I've got one here called Support. So what you're seeing when I clicked on that tab, these are the related documents that go with this employee, Jeff Thomas. If I wanted to look at any one of these supporting documents, maybe their resume, I can double click on it, and it opens up in the native application that that file was created in. In this case, he submitted a Word document, and there's his resume. If I go back into the document itself, I can see his I-9 form. Here's this I-9 form. Hey, that's great. Thanks, Jeff. If I want to go back to the main screen and through a workflow process, maybe I'm in charge of adding or collecting other information for this employee. I can add other documents to this. If I click on Index, I can browse. Maybe I'm going to attach his W-9 or his W-4. We'll do a W-9 here. When I do that, it pops up and it gives me a box. So I can choose that respective document type, my W-4. And now if I come over and I hit refresh, you'll see I'm seeing a packet being created of all the documents that belong to this employee. So if I want to look at their W-4, well, I'm sorry, W-9, this is the document I just attached. Okay? So this is a great way to create packets of information. One of the things that you're not seeing is that, hey, you know what? This W-9, it's got a lot of values currently associated with it. If I wanted to go outside of this form and search for this document, I can do so by any one of these values. And I didn't type these in. These documents inherit the values of the document that they're attached to. And that's important because a lot of your time today is probably spent, indexing or adding values to documents. Well, you'll see here that you just did that, hey, these documents are automatically grouped together and I didn't have to type a thing. I just had to browse and attach. And that's really important to understand, right? So that's a type of smart form. And I call it zero indexing. And as you see here, in this case, his resume, I actually see that there's 2 copies. If there was 1 copy of this document, there would just be a little tiny icon with 1 page. The system has version control in it. So any editable documents you can store within the system. Maybe it's a contract, maybe it's a CAD drawing, but you can store these documents and you can version them as they're going through a workflow process, or just pull them out of the system and then make edits and then check them in. With this employee resume, let's assume that the user wanted to make an edit to this. So he can right-click on that line, his resume, and check out a version of this document. Ask me, it's polite, would you like to save a copy? Yes, I do. And we're going to just throw this on my desktop. So now I have a copy of this document on my desktop. I can certainly go and edit it in whatever native application. Maybe I'm adding some other information. Maybe it's my my to and from dates. Or, you know what, I'm going to change his address. He moved over a street, 37th Street. I can save this. And the beauty of the system is I don't have to necessarily go and search for that one document I checked out. You'll see in the main screen, there's a button called version control. When I click on this, based off of each user, it's going to show what documents they have checked out. I can check in a new version of the documents, or I can undo my checkout and allow other users to make modifications to what's currently stored. I'm going to check in a new copy. Just by clicking on check in, I can browse to my modified file, which is on my desktop, and I can give it a comment. New address. So now if I went back into that employee info and I looked at this document, I can open it up, and this is my 37th Street. So you're seeing the latest modified version of that document. You can always go back and see every other version of this document. You can right-click on the document itself, go to versions, and see every version of this document and by who made the edit, right? I talked earlier about Sarbanes-Oxley and HIPAA. You're seeing a good portion of the auditing, who's doing what to what document, and when they did it. That's just one area that auditing is controlled. Down at the very bottom, there's a full audit trail. Every interaction a user has done with the document, whether they viewed it, they added some value, you can expand these and you can see, well, in this case, they removed this value, info 15, from that field value. As documents are going through a workflow, that is also tracked. There's an annotation history, and just real quick, I might highlight parts of this document and hit save. So you can see even temporary annotations are tracked and who did what on what date. Documents that are automatically distributed, you saw earlier I captured a purchase order automatically. I'm going to just show the one I captured today. So these are all fields that you can search this document by. We captured those automatically, but what's important is that when we're automatically distributing documents, we're going to show the output method and how it was sent and what the status was. We'll normally set up alerts if for some reason somebody gave you a bogus email address and can't get it out there, you know, it's probably not going to go. We'll notify you of those cases. So that's the distribution part, again, the output. All right, so you'll see here in the application itself, it's totally usable, configurable, certain fields that you want to see or other things that you want to see or don't, you can hide those. You can make the interface customized to you. The important things to remember are across the top title bar here. There's two tabs on the far left. These are used to search and recall documents. Full text inquiry allows you to search for words within certain document types. There's the workflow tab. You can access workflows that you've been granted access to. There's another way to onboard documents. It's called index batch. You can set this up to monitor different locations on your desktop or network that you want to onboard documents from. The administration tab is generally secured down to only administrators that have received training in the product. And then the last tabs across the top, these are, again, examples of SmartForms. So if you don't have a help desk ticketing system, you could use this system to allow users to fill in a form indicating an issue with their PC or their software. When they submit it, the document would go to IT, alert them that a user is having problems and they can attend to it. Same thing with HR. So you'll see here, again, it's not isolated to any one area of your organization. It'll work across the board. And that's what I have presented today to give you a kind of a broad overview of what the application does. There's a lot more that the application can do, and quite honestly, with all the robust features in here, I could talk for hours. You're probably starting to doze off now, so I'm going to end it and ask for any questions that you have on what I've shown.
And we have had a couple of questions come in so far, and just a reminder for those of you who haven't asked anything yet, please key the questions into the question webinar or the GoToWebinar question pane. First question that came in, Randall, was when you were doing pretending if you were a CFO approving things. And the question is, can the CFO set indexing for Sage codes at the approve deny stage?
So every user, if I understand the question right, we can allow every user to do coding, and for each and every individual, we can restrict what GL codes that they can pick from or change. Same thing with invoice number, invoice date, totals, etc. We can control per user which items that they can change and interact with.
Perfect. And next question that came in is, can multiple POs be emailed at one time to a customer or to a vendor maybe as well.
There is, absolutely. We can group those all together, and maybe you want them all sent in one PDF. That's absolutely a possibility.
Perfect. Next question is, what version of Sage will this work with? I can help to answer that. It depends on which Sage product you're on. If you are on Sage 100, it will work with most of them, but we can follow up with you individually to make sure how you want to use it if you're going to use it integrated to make sure that the version you have will work. We had a few thank yous, so great job, Randall.
Awesome, thank you all.
As we mentioned, this is the first in a series of webinars that we're doing on document management and process automation, so watch for more of those coming. However, if you do have a need, if you've seen things today and think, wow, we could use this in this part of our business, or we'd like to talk more about that, you don't need to wait for the next webinar. We're happy to talk with you, do a needs analysis, and then even do more focused presentation on the pieces that would fit your specific business. So don't feel that you would need to wait for the upcoming webinar to have conversations with us. We'll be following up with all of you after this webinar to talk through, make sure that we answered all of your questions, and if you have additional questions that we can take care of those. There's a couple more questions that have come in here. One of them was, what is pricing? Pricing is going to depend on which pieces of the software you need, as well as how many users you need for those pieces. So I would say introductory, just to kind of give you a ballpark, the software is probably not going to be any less than $10,000. That's kind of the entry point, and then it will go up from there. So hopefully that gives you an idea. But again, we could do a needs call with you to kind of talk through some things, get an understanding of what you want to do, and then we could give you some better budgetary pricing for that. Okay, the next one, it says, this is an integration question with Sage. If a receipt comes from Lowe's but is charged to a corporate credit card, how does Sage know to pay the credit card company and not Lowe's?
Yeah, great question. So typically what we do in these instances is that we'll set up a SmartForm that's called a credit card processing SmartForm. Generally, your credit card company is going to send you a statement. If we can get that in CSV format, we can automatically import that. We can dissect that CSV and send respective elements of it to each card holder and allow them to attach their receipts at the line level. So when we're talking about Lowe's, you know, they've already charged it to the credit card company. We would be reimbursing that credit card company, but each individual would be responsible for attaching the line level receipts to their portion of the credit card statement. In turn, once that form is filled in, it would go into accounts payable and they would transact it as a normal invoice. Instead of paying Lowe's though, it'll pay your credit card company.
Perfect. Next question is, can you force a user to set indexing for Sage codes before they can approve?
Yes. We can force them to, before they send the document to any other user, that they have to fill in certain fields. We also normally, by default, if they're coding a document using our GL distribution stamp, we force them to balance it out.
Perfect. And we've had a couple more questions come in on pricing. What we'll do, each of you that are asking about pricing, we will have either myself, Connie Whistler, or Sue Dunn will follow up with you to talk more about exactly what you're looking to do so that we can make sure we can price those out and get with Randall and do that. So we'll follow up with each of you after the webinar that are asking about pricing. I think, just going through my list here, it looks like that was the last question we had. Great group. It looks like we're finishing about 15 minutes early. Randall, do you have anything additional you wanted to cover before we give everyone a few minutes back in their day?
Yeah, I do. So everyone that's viewing this, just know that I was a customer. It's like the Hair Club for Men. I was a customer, now I'm a user. I I love the product. It's very robust. I've looked at other products. There's nothing out on the market like what this application can do. And thank you all for your time today.
Perfect. Yes. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And we will be following up with each of you afterwards. I'm sorry, there were just a couple more questions that came in on some various things that I wanted to make sure that it wasn't something we needed to grab from Randall. So it looks like we have wrapped everything up. Looks like you guys have a few minutes left in your day. Again, we will be following up with each of you after this webinar to make sure that we have answered all of your questions, and that if you need additional information that we can actually get that over to you. So thank you again for your time today. Hopefully you enjoyed the webinar, found it informative. If you have ideas for other webinars you would like us to do, please let us know. We're always looking for that. We're actually in process right now of setting a webinar schedule for 2019, or at least the first half. So it would be great timing if you have any suggestions on things you would like to see covered. And with that, we'll give you not quite 15 minutes back in your day, but almost 15 minutes back in your day. We hope you have a great Thursday, and we look forward to talking to you guys again soon. Take care.